Hi everyone, welcome back to online classroom Cikgu Teo. I'm so happy that you decided to come back to Cikgu Teo's channel. In this video, we are going to look at your science laboratory. Do you like going to the science laboratory? I know it's a place that excites me. I always get excited when I get to go to science lab when I was a student. How about you? First, let's look at a few apparatuses that are commonly used in our science lab and also their functions. This is a boiling tube. Okay, for every apparatus, I will give you a picture of what it looks like and also the symbol. The one on the right is how you draw it when you need to draw your set of apparatus, okay, during the experiment as you prepare your science lab report. Okay, so this is a boiling tube. This is how you draw it. And also the function is to heat small amounts of chemicals. Test tube look a lot like boiling tube. It's a little bit smaller and the function is to hold small amounts of chemicals. What about bigger amount of chemicals? How do we hold them? We can use beaker that looks like a cup, conical flask that have the shape of a cone, and also flat bottom flask. Pay attention to how you can draw them, and their function is to hold larger amounts of chemicals. Next, let's take a look at this. This is a measuring cylinder. We use this to measure the volume of liquid. And then we have also burette and also pipette, okay, or pipette. What is the function of burette and pipette? For burette, it is also to measure the volume of liquid, but we can measure it a lot more accurately. And also for pipette, we actually use them to measure the fixed volume of liquid. So for example, you need 5 milliliter, 5 ml of acid. You can use pipette of 5 ml. Take one that has the label 5 ml and fill it up to the mark. There is a mark and it will be an exact 5 ml. Or you can use a measuring cylinder, measure it up to 5 and pour it into your test tube. Okay, so pipette come in different sizes, 5 ml, 10 ml, and so on. So if we use pipette, it is only used to measure a fixed volume. We already know how much we need. Okay, so we have all these three. They have the same function, but they will be suitable. You need to choose a suitable one for different experiments. This is a tripod stand. It is used to support apparatus during heating. And this is a wire gauge. Okay, we use it to spread heat evenly during heating. This is a filter funnel where we use to filter or separate insoluble solids from mixture. For example, you want to separate sand from the sandy water. Say you have a beaker of water, it is filled with sand and you don't want the sand, we want to separate it, we will use the filter. And this is a gas jar which we use to contain gas. Retort stand with clamp is used to hold or support apparatus. And finally, we have evaporating dish. We use this dish to evaporate excess solvent. Before we go into the science lab, I really need all of you to identify, recognize, study these symbols of hazardous materials. You need to learn how to read the symbols so that you can go into science lab and conduct experiments safely. A lot of the chemicals in our science lab is very hazardous, meaning they are dangerous. So when you use the chemicals, you need to observe the bottles so that you can look for the hazard symbols on the chemical bottles. There are a few symbols, and what do they mean? Okay, let's find out one by one. For this symbol with an X, it means irritant. Okay, so this type of chemicals will give out vapor or fumes that will hurt your eyes, your nose, or even your throat. So they are very irritating. That's why they are called irritant. You need to avoid inhaling the vapor or fumes that comes from the chemicals. So we need to use this type of chemicals inside a fume chamber. An example of chemicals that are irritants will be chloroform and ammonia. If you see this symbol, it means radioactive. And it will emit radioactive rays, and it is very dangerous because they can cause cancer. The example of this type of chemicals will be uranium and plutonium. Look at this. If your hands or any surface is exposed to this type of chemicals, there is a hole. Look at this hole here. So it means that this chemical is very corrosive. Do not touch this type of chemicals. Do not let it come near your skin because they burn. In case of contact with the skin, you need to wash the affected part. Say you have it on your palm. Okay, you need to wash your palm with a lot of water. And some of the examples will be concentrated acid and alkali. Oh, this is the symbol of a skull, and it means poison or toxic. The chemicals is very poisonous if you see this symbol on the bottle. Do not drink, eat, smell, or taste this chemical. Examples will be mercury and also chlorine. This means explosive. This type of chemical is very explosive. You need to use this type of chemical according to the instructions very, very carefully. And the example will be hydrogen gas and also butane gas. Flammable, there will be a symbol of flames. Okay, this type of chemical easily vaporizes and is flammable, meaning they catch on fire very easily. You need to keep this type of chemical away from fire and also heat sources. For example, Bunsen burner. Use this chemical according to instruction carefully, and some of the example will be alcohol and also petrol. Let's look at some rules and safety measures in our science lab. Number 1, do not enter the science lab without your teacher's permission. And never start an experiment until your teacher says you may. Okay, this is very important. Read and understand the instructions of the experiment before you even start. And if you do not understand, what do? Raise your hand and ask your teacher. Okay? Use the chemicals and apparatus correctly and carefully. Like we have studied earlier, you have to read the label as well and know the type of chemicals that you are using. Number 5, eating, drinking, and playing are not allowed in the science lab. 6, do not take the apparatus and chemicals out of the science lab. And after using them, you need to keep them in their original places. Make sure the place to conduct the experiments is always neat and clean. Always tidy up your desk before you start the experiments in science lab. Number 9, wash all the apparatus and throw away waste materials according to the correct procedures, and your teacher will brief you on that. Okay, don't worry. Number 10, wash your hands with soap and water before leaving the science lab. So, a few of the things when we are using chemicals and apparatus. 1, do not ever point the mouth of test tube at your own face or at other people's face, just in case there's fumes coming out that might be dangerous to them. And use safety goggles when mixing or heating chemicals. Keep highly flammable chemicals away from any heat sources. You want to avoid any form of explosion, big or small. And do not taste or smell anything unless your teacher says so. Okay? If accident happen, what should you do? First, do not panic, and you need to always inform your teacher. So in this first situation, if there is fire, make sure you turn off all the electricity and leave, and then inform your teacher. If there is a spill of chemical, do not try to touch it, do not try to clean it with your own hands or even tissue paper. Tell the teacher first, report to the teacher. Different type of chemicals, when they spill, there are different ways to deal with them. Okay, and also if you accidentally come in contact with any chemicals, you need to rinse it off you with a lot of water. Well, that's all for this video. I shall see you in the next video. All of you have fun in your science lab and stay safe, okay? Bye! If you have learned something new from this video, don't forget to like and subscribe.